first week of June, and there is a really interesting calendar insight for us all. Plus, are we going back to the COVID boom? It'd be hard to believe, but the numbers may be telling us something. So we're going to cover that and more in this week's report. As always, thanks for taking a few minutes to join us for our weekly look at real-time market insights into our local housing market. My name is Scott Parker, and I'm the Vice President of Sales and Marketing here at John Green Realtor, and I'll be taking you through this week's findings. So let's dive in. New listings first. So here's new listing activity, and you can see new listings tick up as we would expect. A lot of sellers and list agents will wait until after the holiday weekend passes to put their home on the market. But if you're into data like we are, you'll see here why that isn't always a good idea. So we'll look at under contract activity next, and you can see a pretty nice drop off week over week. And if you look at the trend for the past few years, and I went back and looked at a few pre-COVID years, and we see the same thing. First week of June, it is a very popular wedding and graduation week, especially in our market that relies heavily on first-time buyer and first move-up activity. We are typically going to see this decline. So historical data suggests we will see a pickup in contract activity from here until the 4th of July, when it will start to just kind of seasonally decelerate. But that's what we will be watching closely, especially here locally. And just to drive this point home, here's a look at contract activity nationally. And you can see the same trend, and it suggests we'll see a bounce back until the 4th of July. So lesson for sellers thinking about listing their home at this time next year: listing before Memorial Day is actually optimal, but don't be too concerned. The market will pick back up in June before it tapers, starting with that first week in July. And if you feel like this week's data is signaling a change and that maybe I'm being overly optimistic, here's showing activity. And this is those active buyers out there looking at homes. And as expected for the past few weeks, traffic dropped off, but then it came roaring right back, which tells us there is plenty of gas in the demand tank for the rest of this month and through the summer at least. Bringing back the off-market chart this week because it was fairly noteworthy. Off-market refers to the homes that left the market without successfully selling. So they either canceled their listing or the listing expired without a contract. So Memorial Day, end of May, is a time we historically see this number rise. And we did see that spike again this year as the calendar turned to June. It's still much lower than what we've ever seen it, but interesting that there is still a group of sellers out there that just can't find a buyer even in a market like this. So it's a good reminder of the value of a strong marketing and pricing strategy and the quality of hiring a great agent. This graph depicts balance in the market. So 60% is what we would consider fairly normal. 100% is way out of balance. This number really dropped, which is typically the case the first week in June. As we have discussed, listing activity remained pretty constant, but we see a fairly sizable drop off in contract activity, bringing this market statistic back to a more balanced scenario. And then even more pronounced here when we add in the off-market activity spike that we showed you earlier. One more national piece of data that I thought was really interesting for this week. So notice we're almost back to having more homes under contract than we do homes for sale. And that was the exact scenario we saw during the post-COVID boom market before interest rate hikes slowed the train down in the summer of last year. And so are we really going back to that scenario? The data is leaning that way, but it's really hard to grasp, isn't it? So to recap, the first week of June, we always see a dip in contract activity and what feels like a market starting to shut down, but that's historically not what we should anticipate. In fact, the data may be indicated we are getting back to the market fundamentals of the COVID boom. Should be a really interesting June. Thanks for joining us, and we'll keep a close tab on this, and we'll be here again next week.